Welcome to WikiPodcast. Today, we're embarking on a deep dive into Islam. Think of this as your shortcut to understanding three really central ideas. The core concept of submission, the essential framework for worship known as the 5 pillars,
Right.
and the profound significance of the Quran as the Word of God.
Yeah, and we've really tried to sift through a lot to bring you what's most important.
Exactly, and maybe give you a few of those aha moments along the way.
Hopefully. We're not just looking at definitions today, are we? We're trying to get to the heart of these principles.
Yeah, understand how they actually shape the lives of Muslims around the world.
Mm.
Okay, so let's start with the name itself, Islam. It's
Yeah.
like more than just a label, isn't
Oh,
it?
absolutely. There's a whole philosophy baked right in. The word Islam comes from the Arabic root SLM.
SLM. Okay.
Yeah, think of words like safe and peace. They share this root. And in a religious context, Islam signifies, well, a complete and willing submission to the will of God.
Submission to God.
It's that fundamental act of surrender that really defines the faith.
So if Islam means submission, then a Muslim is someone who is actively submitting. Is that right?
Precisely. Muslim comes from that same root. It means one who submits to God or one who surrenders. And it's not passive, you know. It's seen as an active choice to align one's life with the divine will.
Right. And I found it interesting. Some scholars, they interpret key terms in the Quran slightly differently.
Go on.
Like din meaning worship,
Yeah.
while Islam specifically points to monotheism and Muslim to monotheist.
Yes, that's a view held by some. It really underscores that at its absolute core, Islam is about the oneness of God, Tawhid.
Okay.
So the act of submission then becomes this direct consequence of recognizing and affirming that singular divine reality. It's about living a life grounded in that belief.
Got it. And something important for listeners to maybe know, the term Mohammedism.
Ah, yeah.
You might see it historically, but it's really outdated now, even considered disrespectful.
Absolutely. And the reason is it mistakenly suggests Prophet Muhammad is the central figure of worship rather than God.
Which isn't the case.
No. Muslims deeply revere Muhammad as the final prophet, God's messenger, but their worship is directed solely towards God, Allah.
So using Islam is just much more accurate.
Exactly. It reflects that core principle.
Okay, that's a crucial distinction. So we have this foundation of submission. How does that actually translate into, practice?
Well, that leads us perfectly into the 5 pillars of Islam.
The framework.
The framework, exactly. These are the bedrock of Muslim practice. They're obligatory acts of worship for all Muslims who are able to perform them.
Right, they provide that clear structure for living a life of faith.
Precisely.
So let's start with the Shahada, the declaration of faith. Sounds like the absolute entry point.
It absolutely is. The full declaration is, Hashadu da la ilaha illallah wa hajju anna Muhammadan Rasulullah.
Okay, can you break down the meaning for us?
Sure. It means, I testify that there is no deity except God, and I testify that Muhammad is the messenger of God.
Wow.
Think about the weight of those words. This single statement encapsulates the entire belief system.
And it's the requirement for actually converting to Islam.
Yes, it is. It's the verbal affirmation that forms the premise for everything else.
Powerful. Okay, next pillar, Salah, prayer. We're talking about specific, structured prayers 5 times a day.
That's right. Prescribed prayers performed at specific times each day, facing the Kaaba in Mecca.
And these prayers often happen in mosques or masjid.
Often, yes. Mosques are central places of worship, but they often function as more than that: community hubs, places for learning, social gatherings.
Right, and those towers we often see, the minarets.
Those are traditionally used for the adhan.
The call to prayer.
Exactly. That beautiful melodic call inviting the community to pray. It's a very distinct sound in many parts of the world.
Okay, moving on to the 3rd pillar, Zakat, almsgiving.
Yes, zakat. But it's important to understand it's not just optional charity.
Right, it's more structured.
Much more. It's a fixed portion, typically 2.5% annually, of one's accumulated wealth,
Accumulated wealth, okay.
given by those who meet certain criteria, those who can afford it, to help the poor, the needy, and other specific categories defined in Islamic law.
So it's considered a religious obligation.
Absolutely. A mandatory act of worship and a really vital form of social welfare in Muslim societies. The idea is that wealth is ultimately a trust from God.
A trust, that's interesting.
Yeah. And it's different from sadaqah, which is voluntary charity you can give anytime.
Okay.
And also distinct from waqf, which is more like a permanent charitable endowment.
Got it. So zakat is systematic, obligatory giving, a core duty.
Precisely.
The fourth pillar of that is Psalm, fasting.
Mm-hmm. Fasting most famously during the month of Ramadan.
Right. What does that entail exactly?
It means abstaining from food, drink, smoking, and marital relations from dawn until sunset.
For the whole month.
For the entire month of Ramadan, yes. It's a time of intense spiritual focus, increased devotion, self-discipline.
And empathy, I imagine.
Definitely. A key aspect is fostering empathy for those who regularly experience hunger and hardship. It's meant to bring one closer to God and cultivate self-restraint.
And while Ramadan is the obligatory time, Muslims can fast at other times too.
Yes, voluntary fasting is encouraged on other specific days throughout the year as well.
Okay, and that brings us to the fifth pillar, Hajj, the pilgrimage.
The Hajj, yes, the pilgrimage to Mecca.
This sounds like an incredibly profound experience.
It truly is. It's an obligation for every Muslim who is physically and financially able to undertake it at least once in their lifetime.
Once in a lifetime.
Yeah.
And it happens at a specific time.
Yes, during the Islamic month of Dhu al-Hijjah. The rituals themselves, they reenact or commemorate events in the lives of the Prophet Abraham and his family.
Like circling the Kaaba.
Circling the Kaaba, yes, 7 times. Walking between the hills of Safa and Marwa. Standing in prayer on the plain of Mount Arafat, which is considered the peak of Hajj.
And the symbolic stoning of the devil.
That too. And one of the most striking visuals is seeing millions of pilgrims, men especially, dressed in simple, white, unstitched cloths called ihram.
Why the white cloth?
It symbolizes purity, equality before God, and the stripping away of worldly status. Everyone is unified.
That's powerful. Is there a difference between Hajj and Umrah?
Yes. Hajj is the major obligatory pilgrimage performed at a specific time. Umrah is a lesser pilgrimage. It's optional and can be performed at any time of the year.
And while Mecca is the focus of Hajj, Medina and Jerusalem are also very important sites.
Hugely significant, yes. Medina is where the Prophet Muhammad's mosque and tomb are located, and Jerusalem holds the Al-Aqsa Mosque, the third holiest site. But Hajj specifically refers to Mecca.
It's amazing how these 5 pillars really create this comprehensive structure for Muslim life.
They really do. They touch upon belief, ritual practice, community responsibility, self-discipline.
Okay, so now let's shift focus a bit to the ultimate source of guidance in Islam, the Quran.
The Holy Quran, yes.
Muslims believe this is the literal word of God, correct?
That is the absolute cornerstone belief. The conviction is that the verses of the Quran were revealed directly from God to the Prophet Muhammad. Through the angel Jibril. This happened over a period of about 23 years.
Starting around 610 CE.
Yes, until Muhammad's passing in 632 CE.
And initially, it was transmitted orally.
Primarily, yes, memorization was key. But it was also written down by Muhammad's companions during his lifetime.
Right. That preservation, both oral and written from the very beginning, it speaks volumes.
It really does. The Quran itself is organized into 114 chapters called surah.
Okay.
And these contain over 6,000 verses, or ayat.
Is there a difference between earlier and later chapters?
Generally, yes. The chapters revealed earlier in Mecca tend to focus more on core theological beliefs, spirituality, the Day of Judgment.
In the later ones?
The later Medinan chapters often address more social, ethical, and legal matters relevant to the growing Muslim community. Things like laws for marriage, inheritance, finance, warfare.
So it provided guidance as the community evolved.
Exactly.
Now, the Quran isn't the only source of guidance, is it? There's also the Hadith.
Correct. The Hadith are incredibly important. They are accounts of the Prophet Muhammad's life, his sayings, his actions, his tacit approvals, collectively known as the Sunnah.
The Sunnah.
Yes. They provide essential context and practical examples for understanding and implementing the Quran's teachings. You could think of them as explaining how to apply the divine guidance.
So they work together.
Absolutely. And the scholarly field of tafsir, Quranic commentary, and exegesis relies heavily on Hadith to interpret the verses.
And beyond its religious significance, the Quran is known for its literary quality.
Oh, tremendously. It's widely regarded, even by non-Muslim scholars of Arabic, as the pinnacle of Arabic literature. Its style, its eloquence, it profoundly shaped the Arabic language itself, as well as Islamic art and calligraphy.
That's fascinating. Now, Islam acknowledges previous prophets, right? Like Moses and Jesus.
Yes, definitely. They are seen as major prophets of God.
And their scriptures, like the Torah and the Gospels.
Islam teaches that God did reveal scriptures to these earlier prophets. However, the belief is that these earlier texts Well, they haven't been perfectly preserved. They've been subject to human alteration or misinterpretation over time.
Ah, okay. So how does the Quran relate to them?
The Quran is seen as the final, complete, and perfectly preserved revelation. Muslims believe it's the verbatim word of God, unaltered. It confirms the essential truths of previous revelations, but also corrects perceived distortions and serves as the ultimate comprehensive guide for all humanity.
The final and unaltered word of God.
That's the core belief. It's the foundational text informing every aspect of a Muslim's life and faith.
So as we kind of wrap up this deep dive,
Mhm.
what are the key things you hope our listener takes away from this?
Well, I think understanding that root meaning of Islam submission gives you a real key to the faith's essence. It's that conscious turning towards God.
Right.
Then the 5 pillars, they aren't just rituals. They provide this tangible framework for living out that submission. You see belief, prayer, charity, self-discipline, community, all woven together.
A structure for life.
Exactly. And finally, the Quran. Understanding its place as what Muslims believe to be the direct, unaltered Word of God. It explains why it's the ultimate source of guidance, that deep personal connection to the divine.
This has been a really, I think, moving exploration into these core aspects. It's clear how submission, the pillars, and the Quran all intertwine.
They form the foundation.
Yeah, and of course this deep dive has only scratched the surface. We sincerely hope it has sparked your curiosity to learn even more about Islam and its really rich traditions.
There's always more to explore.
Thank you for listening. Write us in the comments your opinion on the episode and what other topics you would like us to talk about. Subscribe to the channel to help us reach more listeners. Thank you and have an amazing day.